Audience participation portion. Very good. Okay, our first item on the agenda is audience participation. For audience participation, we have one attendee from Zoom. Excuse me. Thank you, Jefferson. And then we will continue with our participants in person. So thank you for your patience.
You're welcome to move forward too, if you'd like.
People in the back row can hear.
So for citizen comments is the time in our meeting where the board and administrative staff like to hear your comments from the public. If you wish to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now. You may continue to sign in at any time during the citizen comments portion of our meeting until the last person has spoken. Because most matters require fact-finding and review, the board is not able to respond to any public comments made at this time. Additionally, the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts deliberation on topics that have not been placed on the publicly noticed agenda. If follow-up action is necessary, the board will ask the superintendent to work with the administrative staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. As a regular business meeting of the board, we expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Additionally, speakers are expected to be respectful. Personnel complaints and personal attacks are not permitted. The board asks that
That's not legal.
the board asks that personnel complaints be submitted in writing. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. If you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to Pat in the back of the room. This information will be provided to the superintendent and the board. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community, and we thank you in advance for your comments. So first we have Tracy Chun from on Zoom, please.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yes, okay. Good afternoon, school board directors, Dr. Snell, and VPS leaders. My name is Tracy Chun, and my address is 3817 Northeast 38th Street, Vancouver 98661. I am a proud teacher librarian in Vancouver Public Schools, and today I would like to share some thoughts on equity and library programs, as some may not be aware of the discrepancies in libraries across our district. Currently, we have 2 school sites, Fir Grove and Vancouver Home Connection, both K-12 programs that do not have libraries because they do not have a teacher librarian. Because of the equity work the district is currently doing, I feel that it is important to highlight this and request that teacher librarians be added to these 2 sites. VHC and Fir Grove did not have a designated library or media center space in their previous buildings. However, as they move into new or remodeled locations, as highlighted in the recent Inside Vancouver Public Schools publication, is the addition of a new media center or library. As they now have a dedicated space, it is time to also provide them with a teacher librarian. There are 3 main reasons why these students and staff deserve a teacher librarian. The first is library programming. These students and staff do not have access to the resource who can teach lessons in digital citizenship, media literacy, research, digital content, integration of technology, and more. They do not have the opportunity to learn how a library functions and how even in today's digital world, they need to be able to learn to sift through content to find relevant and accurate information. Teachers also need the librarians to help find resources, materials, assist with technology, and other much needed assistance. The second thing is library access. These students do not have access to a collection with resources to reach all levels of readers and learners. Books are mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors to the world, but only if students have access to them. They need a librarian with the knowledge and training to provide a curated collection and to create a space where students feel valued and connected to resources. And finally is fiscal responsibility. In VPS, teacher librarians are tasked with the ordering, inventory, and the management of all curriculum materials and one-to-one devices. Without a librarian, there is no one at these sites who is adequately trained to manage these resources. A librarian is needed for the fiscal responsibility that comes with managing millions of dollars of public funds. VPS teacher librarians are excited and would love to be included in this equity work. We would love the opportunity to share at a future board meeting the work that is happening in our libraries. Our teacher librarians are doing incredible things to support student learning, literacy, technology, and even social emotional learning. All students deserve the opportunity to have a librarian. If there is no teacher librarian, the library or media center is in essence just a storage room. In light of our equity work in VPS and the newly designed spaces, please ensure that all students, especially some of our most vulnerable, have access to a library that is staffed by a teacher librarian who will curate a collection, manage materials and devices, support technology, promote literacy, and provide much needed instruction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So for our first citizen comment from the audience, we have, excuse my pronunciation, Yana Brennan. Yes, please state your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Yana Brennan. I live at 2500 Northwest 125th Street, Vancouver, Washington 98685. Critical race theory. It is the word theory in this title which concerns me. A theory is something we think is true. A theory is the beginning of an experiment. Max Horkheimer, the author of critical theory, which is the father of CRT, said this: if experience and theory contradict each other, one of the two must be re-examined. Either the scientist has failed to observe correctly or something is wrong with the principles of the theory. Critical race theory is premised upon the idea that society is divided into two groups, the oppressed and the oppressors. I agree with this idea. There will always be oppressors and those who suffer under them, but critical race theory teaches that a person's skin color determines which group they belong to. It teaches that a person is born as an oppressor or a victim, kind of like animals are born as predators or prey. Are all white people oppressive? Are all Black people oppressed? No. I can think of many examples which prove this theory incorrect. Therefore, according to the founder of critical theory, we should re-examine it. Schools have taught another theory for years as though it is fact, the theory of evolution. And now we have millions of adults and children who honestly believe that evolution is a fact. The result is that they think the earth and animals and plants and humanity are all happenstance, one big accidental big bang in the sky. Children now cut themselves and send nudes and watch 13 Reasons Why, and they wonder, why not? If I'm just an accident, why not commit suicide? The theory of evolution has taught them that humans are just evolved animals. If we are all animals, then why morality? Why not just act like animals and send nudes and cut and commit suicide? If humans are an accident, then what is the purpose other theories such as
Thank you.
intelligent design.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Antonio Salato. Excuse my pronunciation. Okay. Please state your name and address when you're ready, and then you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Next, we have Katie Bauer.
Hour 14,504.
Next, we have Bob Reynolds.
Please use more child-focused.
Thank you.
Data-driven policies.
Thank you. Next, we have Sally Snyder.
only into my kids' school inboxes, promoting the vaccine clinic and giving kids extra credit for watching the webinar. How is this considered work for English, math, or PE? Public records requests show the district knew weeks in advance they were going to partner with the Clark County Health Department, yet they didn't include parents. Shame on you. The bottom two slides are slides from the vaccine webinar. These were completely skipped over. It took watching the video 5 times on YouTube to get these screenshots. These slides show no kids under 19 have died from COVID, and kids under 19 are the third least likely to even get COVID. All this right off the Washington State Department of Health's website. So why were they skipped over? Have you read this 13-page Washington School Testing Guide? The board has given direction for our district to consider this. It gives schools options for PCR testing of every single teacher and every single student on a regular basis using any COVID device that has emergency use authorization. Swabs shoved up our kids' noses or kids over 4 allowed to administer it themselves. You want a pilot program in the high school after the activism by teachers, principal, and this district and the exclusion of parents that just happened over the vaccine clinic? We don't want PCR testing in our schools. We want our kids learning academics. The district's own mission statement starts with, in partnership with home. From my lens, that's not happening. A parent's voice is silenced when parents are not informed. These are our children, not yours.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rebecca Watson.
Rebecca Watson, 2719, class 127 Street, 9665. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I spent September 1st, 2020 through June 27th, 2021 traveling the U.S. with my family. And it was really eye-opening seeing people living normally. I heard stories from friends with kids at home, which included Zoom calls all day for the majority of the school year. And I found that odd because the majority of the schools where we traveled were in person and mask-free. We visited 13 states. Additionally, many more states will not be requiring masks this coming school year. Due to the science, it is not necessary. I was shocked to see the Washington State Health Department K-12 school testing guidance. This document suggests unvaccinated students be subjected to weekly random PCR testing and will continue to wear masks while their unvaccinated peers do not. The vaccine is not FDA approved. It is experimental. Children are dying and suffering life-altering health consequences due to this vaccine. How is it that segregation and forced medical tests are acceptable if they do not receive an experimental? Now, while parents and teachers were distracted with online learning, etc., you vote in a diversity and equity training for teachers only, and then adopt Resolution 869 for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the schools, and there will be curriculum established before the 2021-2022 school year. I read Resolution 869, and here are some quotes from this resolution. Systemic racism exists not just in other parts of the United States, but in Vancouver, Washington, including in our schools. We realize that structural racism is built into every structure in society, as well as the fabric of our schools. What is the definition of systemic racism? It is a form of racism that is embedded through laws and regulations within society or an organization. It can lead to such issues as discrimination in criminal justice, employment, housing, healthcare, political power, and education, among other issues. If there is systemic racism in the schools, it is the adults that are perpetuating it. Systemic racism is the foundation of CRT. They will be teaching our kids CRT and calling it diversity, equity, and inclusion.
None of this has anything to do with our children. They are children and they are not responsible for the laws, regulations within society or an organization. Equality is not about giving everyone an equal, or equality is about giving everyone an equal chance, not about giving everyone an equal result. We must unite our children by finding common ground, not by creating division with this concept that you are the color of your skin. And while we are distracted with mask mandates, PCR testing, vaccine segregation.
Thank you very much.
You had comprehensive sexual education.
Next, we have new recos.
Hi, my name is Lynn Rocco, and my address is 362 Northwest Circle. So I am here because I've worked years in early childhood development and eventually in the mental health field with a master's in individual counseling. And I'm aware that what we instill in our children's minds affects their mental and emotional health. But at the same time, I understand our society is trying to deal with this racial tension. So we try to develop this racial equality, critical race theory, or now titled diversity, equity, inclusion, and excellence in education. But I am not too concerned about the title. I think what I'm more concerned is the content and the underlying message of what they are teaching the kids. So when we teach these kids, to me, it's more of an ideology than just straight information and facts. It leaves room for possible interpretation. That means that when we slowly drift away from facts, then this ideology, when a children receives this information, they can interpret it as the world is black versus white, or good versus evil, oppressor or oppressed, and victims or victims, gratitude or mourning, and so forth. It creates, like we said, more division and confusion as well. Oftentimes, I hear the negative sides of students and parents' personal experience through these teachings. That leads me to inquire and want to dive deeper to understand the written curriculum. I am left questioning myself, how could a title that sounds so good on paper leave these young people with anger, resentment, and division based on their skin color? Why are parents and teachers so divided if this is for the common good of the children? I am left with this conclusion. We are presenting a curriculum that is based on an ideology which opens a wide range of interpretations based on one's personal core values and belief systems taught at home by parents. Parents who should have greater authority, knowledge, and influences on their own children's lives. When core values and belief systems clash due to believing one's own interpretations, it causes so much boundary, confusion, and division. So I'm left with this question in order to not leave with a complaint or being critical. How can I involve myself to help resolve this issue? My question is, can I read through the curriculum and critique it in order to eliminate non-biased messages or negate subtle messages which attack a person based on their gender or race? Because I know our children are created with great value and worth as a whole being. What they think, how they feel, their uniqueness and personalities and character, not just their gender and their race. I believe we need to emphasize the value of character and hone in on the children's strengths and personalities more than one's physical appearance, which they can't change. So I'd like to leave these three questions. Sorry, really questions. Two questions. I would be interested to know how these policies are created, who's developing this curriculum, and who gets to decide if it should be implemented in the classroom. And last one, final application question. How does a person get involved in a curriculum committee? Because I know several parents and I would be.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have David Frank.
My name is David Frankie, address 10204 Northeast 6th Avenue, 98685 Vancouver, Washington. I am a former student from Columbia River High School, now doing homeschooling. What I've seen is disgusting, especially in the past year. To start it all off, the most recent event I've had is I have a no trespass order on Columbia River School property issued by, I think, the vice principal or vice administration, Rob Duncan. I've been labeled a mass shooter by the teachers. I've been told that to my face. It's criminal, and they all are out for their own political agenda. I cannot go in there freely as a student and express my political views. I'm slandered for it. The teachers, a math teacher has threatened over this hat. It's got the silhouette of a rifle on it. You know, it's not loaded or anything. That's what I told him. It's a hat. I got sent to security. One of the security officers outside, actually, he was involved in this whole thing. You know, he was telling on me like a kid because it's silly. The school, the teacher must be in his 50s. And I was at the time, I was 15 years old, you know, having to fight with stupidity. They take these things really far. It's a waste of their time. It's a waste of taxpayer money. But I have to be up here standing, talking about my rights, my rights as an individual, as a student. And it's crazy. I've talked to parents. My dad knows all this, I tell him it all, but other parents, they're just astonished that this kind of stuff goes on, the censoring it. It's tyranny. It's really what it is, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next, we have Bobby Evanson.
Hi, Bobby Evanson. My address is 519 Northwest 143rd Street. This board voted unanimously last October to implement an equity curriculum in our school system. Equity? That sounds nice. Who would resist against equity for all? Wouldn't it be racist to think that equity is a bad thing? Well, it depends on how the word is defined. It's easy to misunderstand. I'm hopeful that this board misunderstood what they were voting for. Equity is defined as being equally fair. If our schools are teaching with equity, my question is, who's deciding what is fair for which people? Equality is different. Equality is defined as everything having equal value. Teaching equality would define all humans as created with equal value. In order to teach with equity, we need to go back to when America was founded to decide who is good and who is wrong. I've been told that this curriculum teaches kids as young as 5 years old that Thanksgiving could be a day of mourning for the indigenous people of America. Is this the base of equity learning, teaching our kids that America is bad? I've learned that the students are learning that white people in this country are naturally born oppressors. At the same time, I've heard that they're being told that people of color in America have been oppressed and they will struggle because of that. How do you think that makes our children feel? Instead of teaching our kids reading, writing, and math, this curriculum is teaching them to feel uncomfortable about who they are. This doesn't sound like a recipe for a happy community. This country was established with hope for freedom and prosperity for all. Mistakes were made, horrible things happened. This part of America's history should not be forgotten. At the same time, though, this should not be our children's burden. As time went on, people of America learned from their mistakes. This is why today slavery is illegal and all citizens can vote. As a country, over the generations, we have continued to evolve. This is why so many people from all over the world want to come live here. Here in America, where no matter who you are or where you came from, if you work hard, you will have opportunities. Opportunities that are not possible in the countries they are fleeing. These new citizens want to come live here in America, even though we're a work in progress. Our country is a reflection of our people. And like all people, no one's born perfect. We strive for quality life, we make mistakes, and hopefully we learn from them. I want all kids to know that they're born with equal value and that it is up to them to decide who they want to be. If we teach our young citizens to dwell on the bad and all that our founders have done wrong, we're teaching them to hate our country. If the stories they hear reflect people of different colors having generalized characteristics based on how they look, they will see themselves as bad or weak or guilty. They will look at each other and feel uncomfortable. Equity is not the answer. Let's teach our kids the true history of America. This is a land of hope and prosperity. Our founders were not conquerors, but they were people looking for a better life. Instead of looking through a lens of equity, let's be proud of how far we've come. Let's not judge each other by how we look. Let's be accepting of each other, not because of race or gender, but because we are a country of individuals who all want to feel like we belong, and we all do.
The next participant is Brett Simpson.
Brett Simpson. I'm here to, I guess, spread a little truth onto what's going on and what's actually your responsibility as elected officials here. First thing I'd like to say is your statement of we need to be respectful is bullshit. It's very important to be respectful or kind or calm to any elected official. If you don't want to be an elected official, then resign. That your lie is not stated before the meeting, and that you understand that we can come here and talk however we want to any of you. The second thing I'd like to talk about is masks. You're infringing on our liberties. You're not following science. As an academic institution, it's pathetic. It's disgusting. Fear on everyone. If you had any ability to read data, you know that even N95 masks don't filter down to the level of viruses. That is why they wear a giant spacesuit looking thing when they're working on viruses. N95s will filter down to 0.3 microns. That's not small enough. Viruses are 0.08 microns. They won't filter them. They don't do anything. Wake up. You're being used. That's how you are elected officials, and you're responsible to the constituents, and you are not responsible to the state or the administration or the OSI. Your ultimate responsibility is to every person in your district. We expect you to say no to masks and COVID restrictions. We expect you to say no to continuing sex ed or comprehensive sex ed, as though we never had that before, but we did. Through middle school and high school, we had appropriate sexual education. Putting it down to kindergartners is ridiculous. And the things that they've taught, I don't know, have you, any of you even seen the curriculum? It's disgusting. Okay? I don't know why a third grader needs to know about fisting and blood play. That's disgusting. The final thing I'd like to say is CRT is a violation of the Civil Rights Act, and it's also a violation of our state constitution. Article 9, Section 4, public schools shall be created and they forever shall be free from sectarian control and influence. CRT, and anything you want to call it, I don't care if you call it CRT, equity, inclusion, diversity, and education, whatever BS term you decide to weasel around the public on, that's a faith. That's a religion. That's not fact. In fact, I can objectively prove with data that everything that it stands for is a lie. So it is a faith. And if people can't come in here and preach Christianity, and they can't preach Islam, and they can't preach Hebrewism.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next we have Richard Erickson. Richard Erickson. Please state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to address the
I
board.
heard some mumbling about the rest of this. Well, my name is Richard Erickson. I'm in Vancouver, District 18. And so this is my school board here, and I'm addressing you as a concerned constituent here. I didn't prepare remarks. I think I heard Bob earlier state how we're all aware that this virus is very, very devastating, not just to our country, but to the entire world. Something that was interesting recently in statistics, the average age of death from COVID is 83. Before COVID, the average age in the US from all causes is 80. Well, that says something in itself. I didn't hear a whole lot of praises when the Great Barrington resolution came out, the declaration. Instead, there was so much blowback from just basically unscientific people. The people that put that together, if you're not familiar with it, was about targeting the most vulnerable in the population. Something that just recently came out from the military. There were 302, 685 cases of COVID from active personnel that were documented. Out of those, there were 26 deaths. You know what the survival rate on that is? It's 99.991. To kids, this particular virus, which has killed over 4 million, 5 million people in the entire globe, over 600,000 people in the US, is not even a tenth of that. What precautions are we taking for them? I originally came up here because I wanted to provide the board with some information on masks, but I think Brett fairly well covered that. So I'll leave it at the desk for you guys to review. The title of it is Masks Don't Work, a Review of Science Relevant to COVID-19 Social Policy. Now, I also noticed that it's kind of intimidating, and the only thing up on the camera there is nothing but a time clock. I didn't intend to use 3 minutes here. I'd like to know why we don't have some coverage of the really important people, which are the speakers here. Instead, we have a group of 6 board members, all masked. I assume there's a good science reason for that. The majority of the people here are not masked. Are you uncomfortable that you need to wear a mask? Are you protecting us? Probably. Are you protecting yourselves? Who are you protecting with masks? Cowards. Yeah. Why aren't you wearing N95s? I think Brett provided you this.
Thank you. Next up, we have Carrie Van Osteren.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Van Osteren. I live at 2907 East 24th Street, 98661, and I yield my time to Heather Lindberg, please.
Thank you. Next, we have Heather Lindberg.
Thank you, members of the board, and welcome, Dr. Snell. My name is Heather Lindberg, and I'm a parent advocate with a rising 6th grader and 9th grader here in Vancouver Public Schools. I've been involved in advocacy with this district since the summer before my oldest started school. This July meeting in 2012 was my first ever school board meeting, and I was the only person involved. 9 years later, I'm here to ask you to stay the course. For every person upset regarding things out of your control or made up controversies, there are more cheering you on. You hear stories about a friend who had a friend who heard from a friend whose kid came home upset about a lesson that they had in school. But after a year of remote and hybrid learning, more access to the curriculum than parents have ever had. How many parents have brought a specific issue to you with the curriculum that we currently use? There's 3 places I feel VPS is moving in the right direction. First is critical race theory. It is an advanced level framework to examine laws and systems, and its development is inappropriate for K-12. It also isn't happening. Further, few teachers would have the background to teach it correctly. Critical race theory is not what is being advocated against. Those advocating against CRT and creating model policies against it have defined it too broadly and have lumped a number of great initiatives and programs into it. In one model policy, 88 programs and terms are tagged as critical race theory and forbidden, including programs like social emotional learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and culturally responsive teaching, all 3 of which parent groups have spent years advocating for locally, at the state level, and nationally. Items such as anti-racism, diversity training, implicit and explicit bias, restorative justice, and restorative practices, issues our teachers have been taking head on to improve their own practices for years. 88 banned terms and ideas disallowed for use in schools and in teacher trainings, and still they say the list is not exhaustive. This advocacy is meant to silence. The second area I think we're moving in the right direction is masked until vaxxed. While parents were all over the board trying.
Special.
I want to hear this, so I'm curious.
Yeah, me too.
I want to know, right now.
Excuse me, please.
She didn't interrupt you.
While parents were all over the board trying to figure out a completely new situation with COVID-19, the vast majority were focused on a safe return to school. A majority of parents do support masks in schools and increased safety measures.
No, they don't.
Excuse me, please respect the speaker. Excuse me, she has 6 minutes. We're
It's all right.
no, someone yielded her time. If we have any more interruptions, please, we're gonna have to ask people to leave.
Happy parents just don't usually show up to school. Even our oldest students weren't able to get fully vaccinated until the last week of school, and many of our students are too young to get vaccinated in the fall. I have one of each. Chalking mask mandates and vaccination questions up to personal parental choice is simplistic and ignores how one parent's personal choice can impact the health and safety of an entire classroom of students and the loved ones they go home to. Finally, the comprehensive sexual health education bill. Parents in this district helped advocate for that bill and helped in the creation of that bill. We worked to make that bill as responsive to parents in the community as possible, while also making it factual, accurate, and as complete as possible for students. The results, it passed statewide at 58%, in Clark County at 57%, and in Vancouver Public School boundaries at 65%. Despite the fact there was a smear campaign against it. The vast majority of your constituents support this work. I will forever be an advocate for children. You will see me here again in a year, in 2 years, in 4 years. I will always be here. But I want you today to know that we can teach real topics, tough topics, in developmentally appropriate ways. And if some of it makes us uncomfortable, that just shows that we have room to grow. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Alan Addington. Please state your address, please.
And my email is pushbackbeheard@gmail.com.
Louder, please.
I don't think we're gonna get anywhere unless we're on the same page. Teachers union, here we go. How many hundreds of thousands of them across this country getting paid by DC and we got nothing, we show up at this meeting. I mean, come on, I don't wanna go home and just go, wow, that was great, I feel good. That's why I gave you my email. We gotta get these guys out of here. We gotta hire new people. That's true. We're not gonna get them to change their mind. I mean, come on. We've been pushing this whole mess. Heck, of what, 15, 20 years, been failing, and now they're turning around, taking our babies and telling them stuff that we don't believe in. They're our kids, our flesh and blood. Push back. Be heard at gmail.com. Just email. I know somebody who's running for one of these positions, and she needs to get herself in there. Her daughter is going across the whole country talking about masks. They gotta come off. I mean, think about this. My white child, I have twin daughters and I have a 14. I mean, good God, you know, my one daughter was trying to get help from the school because she was struggling with all this crap. Well, it took 3 months before she got the help. We had 3 Zoom meetings with like 8 people each time. We had to take time out of the day, figure it all out, and we're just like, our kid needs help. Math sucks, and so does science, so you guys need to help her out. It went on for 3 months, so a week before school was over, she got the help. And these guys are failing. We gotta get them out of the way.
They're replaceable.
Hell yeah, they get elected. I mean, these suits, they gotta go. Anyway, so my daughter, this is what we're talking about, CRT. My daughter's sitting in a classroom, my white daughter sitting in a classroom next to a black person. And they wanna get along and be friends and chat and do stuff. And then you got a teacher, someone of authority saying, white people are oppressive to black people. And black people will be oppressed by white people. And my kids, they're gonna be going, I mean, that black person's gonna be looking at the white person, and my kid's gonna be looking at the black person. Done. That's not a relationship. It's hard enough to have a relationship, period. This is a freaking nightmare. I mean, we gotta wake up. I don't know what to say. I didn't bring any notes. I got 2 jobs. I was on unemployment for a year. Did you guys lose a paycheck?
No.
Did you guys struggle in any way, shape, or form? I get to ask questions. You just don't have to answer. I'm just done. Email me. We have to get together, and none of this is going to make a difference.
Molly Thomas.
Hi, my name is Molly Thomas. I live on 53rd Street in Vancouver, Washington, and I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old in Vancouver Public School systems. So I think anecdotally, I really appreciate the dialogue and the conversation that went on here today, and I hope that we as parents can listen to each other and be supportive of each other as we try to address these issues. My 8-year-old came home about 4 weeks ago and said he wanted to break his arm. And I said, why do you want to break your arm? He said, because I'm so lucky. And I said, what do you mean you're so lucky? And he said, well, I'm white and I'm a boy, so I'm so lucky. What can I do to make myself less lucky? Because I feel bad. And that has nothing to do with what I came here to talk about today, but I just thought I would share that. All right, so I'm actually here to talk about pornography. So this is a slightly different topic. And I reached out to the Vancouver School Board, and I appreciate your guys' emails back and forth with me, but I work in IT, and that gets a little complicated to talk to people who don't work in IT. Because some of you might not know that your children's laptops and tablets for the past year have given kids access to pornography. And so all you had to do was go onto one of the search engines and type in words like butt, which my 8th grader and his friends did, and you get served up pornographic video content. Full-on pornographic videos and content. And so we dialogued with the school board via email, and I asked them to do a full IT audit of this issue because, one, we don't know the extent of this problem. This has been the case for tablets and iPads since they were launched out to kids. So we don't know how many kids have actually received content and seen content like this and what age groups those kids are in. And the only reason that it was discovered was because third graders aren't very sophisticated and the teacher happened to walk by a boy who was using a tablet and saw it. Right, but it was half the boys in that classroom who were doing this and they just started, once they see one word, they start doing other words and pretty soon all the boys in this classroom were accessing pornography on school provided devices. I would like resolution to these problems. And so I understand that the school board had removed access to Bing, which was the search engine that was providing up this content, because to me, that's not sufficient. When you're running an IT program and millions of dollars of IT technology that's used to provide curriculum every day to your students, you need to provide a safe learning environment. And that requires that you have defense in depth, that you put in proper controls at the network layer. When my kids try and do something like that at home, they don't get served up pornography. And so you guys need to have a multi-pronged approach, and I've put a couple suggestions and recommendations. One was that you guys send a letter to all parents in the school district, letting them know that this was a possibility for their kids to have come into contact with this type of material, so that parents could take the appropriate actions to understand, because I would never have known potentially if one of my kids' friends wasn't caught. So let the parents get involved in this. There are children. We have a right to try and help them and understand and work with them if they have been exposed to content like this. The second thing that I request is that a summary of the exposure and what you guys have found so far that's put into place. And that, sorry, I lost my spot. And that you guys discuss and include a method for how you're going to secure your IT network, right? So you can't just remove Bing, you have to actually provide a secure network, and then you also provide the resources for parents to work with the district and other teachers to figure out how to help and counsel the kids that have been exposed to this. So I request that you guys put this on your agenda to discuss how to handle this issue.
Thank you very much. Aaron Plummer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Plummer. I live northeast on 43rd Street. I'm actually new to this school district, so I hope that you guys are actually listening with open hearts and open minds to hear what we have to say, because obviously this is important. The evidence that's provided today, they're not stories. They're not he said this, she said this, she said. These are personal stories. I hope you're listening to that, because these are personal stories. They're not somebody told somebody. These are actually happening. So you're wrong about that. The stats you also said on CRT, those are wrong. New study shows 6 out of 10 parents do not want critical race theory in their school. We'll look it up. That's Harvard Katz Harris poll. And then the YouGov economist also said that 7 out of 10 Americans have an unfavorable view of critical race theory. So I don't know where you got your stats. They're wrong. Just so you know. So one of the reasons I wanted to stand up is because we have a son that's going to be in 8th grade, Alki Middle School. He has chronic asthma. Not only has his own doctor said he should not get the vaccine due to the risks of the side effects that would result in his lungs, he also doesn't need it because he had COVID. This is something people don't talk about. All of our family have COVID. We have immunity from COVID. University School of Medicine in St. Louis just published and said months after recovering from mild cases of COVID, people still have immune cells in their body pumping out antibodies against the virus that causes COVID. Such cells could persist for a lifetime, churning out antibodies all the while. Another study from Curative, a clinical lab in San Dimas that specializes in COVID, did testing on workforce studies that said they did a test and found that 254 employees who had COVID and recovered did not become reinfected, while 739 subjects who were vaccinated, 4 of them still got it. But which one's more powerful? Natural immunity, okay? According to Clark County Public Health, there's only been 6 reported cases in Clark County reported outbreaks in the Vancouver this year. How many total? This year, 6. That means that our children that are going to school, if they're wearing a mask, because they could potentially get it, and have a 0.000069% chance of getting COVID. That's 0.000069% chance. So far, school-age children that have died in the U.S., 217 deaths in the same age group. That's a mortality rate of 0.00000434%. That's, why are you making our kids wear masks when there's a 0.00000434% that they'll get it and die? There's no scientific data that you have, there's no evidence, you're just pushing some political theater that's completely unnecessary to back this decision. The CDC itself has said, reopen our schools, you're not listening. Stop trying to dictate to us as parents what we say. We should decide if they get the vaccine or not. Don't sit there and try and force us and put everybody in masks that doesn't have a vaccine. They might as well be wearing a yellow star.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Heidi Sapala, and this is a last call for speakers.
Hi, thank you for your time. I'm Heidi Sepala, and my address is 4900 I'm a mother of 4 with 3 kids in the school district and the Spanish program. One is going into middle school this year, the other was 3rd grade, and the other kindergarten. Regarding critical race theory, it's important to me that my children are being championed in their schools by teachers and curriculum. In 2nd grade, I remember having days set aside for cultural celebrations. We were taught to celebrate people who were different color, background, who ate food we weren't familiar with, wore clothes tied to their heritage, and danced beautifully dances we had never seen. In my own life, our family thrives on culture. We seek it out to learn from them, explore and experience the beauty, and as a way to travel from our kids. With our children, we have had the greatest success as parents, teaching our kids how awesome they are, that they are unlimited, that they can love. We know the importance of words because they release identity. And we as people, knowingly or unknowingly, behave out of our perceived identities, what we believe to be true about about who we are. As parents, it is our privilege to impart identity to our children. It's also something that needs to be stewarded well. It is the duty of educators to teach academics. Please stay out of our kids' identities.
Yes, thank you.
I love our experiences with Vancouver Public Schools. I often check in with the teachers in the year to see what's in the curriculum and what my kids will be learning. We as a family would like to continue building education through the opportunities this district presents. Because of things like critical race theory, we have considered homeschooling. I would love my kids to be able to continue the Spanish program that they've been in. And they've had amazing teachers. But it's not okay, the things that have been coming up. I implore you as influencers of young identities, protect the innocence of our children. Fight for them to know how amazing and brilliant they are. Do not settle for half-truths in curriculum that will divide, confuse, reproduce hate, and not serve our community well. Be a safeguard for our children, for their whole self. Please refrain from teaching children that half of them are bad and half of them are victims. Appropriate for them conditions in school where they will prosper. Call out the gold in their children. Critical race theory lacks love, it lacks right identity, and it lacks truth. Seek and pursue a better option, please, seek truth.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Taylor Anderson.
name is Taylor, and my address is 9509 Northeast. Then I wasn't expecting to speak. It just happens that I have an antidote. My brother actually makes masks out in NC State University. It's very interesting. When COVID came, they were very concerned. He built a machine that actually tests masks. He also invented a mask that has silver running through it so that it can, when the air comes in, it can purify the air and blow it out. He has a machine that actually tests these. What they found is that if the mask is not suctioned all the way around your face, that it doesn't matter. If you have a mask, any of these masks, let air, all the particles go in and out. You are not protecting yourself, they're not protecting anyone else. The mask manufacturers actually come in and test on his machine, and they show how little effect they are at stopping anything. So it was very interesting. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Next up is David Frankie, and I apologize. I saw the name twice. I apologize.
My name is David Frankie. I live at 10204 Northeast 6th Avenue, Vancouver, Washington. The state of Washington teaches racial equity tools to our public schools and is mandated by the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. This is rooted in racial equity. Yet, this based on the information from the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, English and language arts students are 52.6%, math 42.3%, and science at 43.7%. This is data from 2018 to 2019. So our students are failing in our public school system. We've entrusted our students to the teachers and this school district, and they are failing our students. They are not passing. So what is going to be done to improve these numbers? Not critical race theory, not comprehensive sexual education, not the political ideology being taught in schools, which I'm very well aware of. I've got a 9-year-old in school, a 16-year-old in school, and I've got a graduate of Columbia River High School. I will be honest, I'm a parent that was asleep behind the wheel during these times. I'm awake. I'm wide awake now with these other parents, and we will be a force here every time. We will be consistent. You will see us here, and these numbers will continue to grow. And the last thing I'm going to say is, just as the Japanese realized after they bombed Pearl Harbor, they made the comment, "We have woken a sleeping giant." Well, you've woken a sleeping giant with the parents here. We will not sit quietly. We will not allow our children to be indoctrinated. They're a gift from God given to us. We've entrusted them to this school district, and you have failed us, and we will no longer accept it. We will not accept the teachers union setting up the board, running our school district. We will determine that going forward, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you for all those that spoke tonight. We are moving on to our business portion of the agenda. I started rather quickly and I neglected to welcome Dr. Snell. It's nice to have you officially join us. So our first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from February 17th, February 18th, February 23rd, March 9th, May 11th, and June 8th. Do I have a motion? A motion. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we will vote. Director Decker.
I agree.
Director Zavala.
Oh.
I approve. Director Barrows.
Approve.
Director Smith. Approve. And I also approve. We're moving on to the consent agenda, and just as a reminder for our constituents here, we review all of the agenda items at our regular workshop, which is in the month prior, and you can find the audio and video for that online. So the consent agenda for instructional and administrative support services and E and F. Do I have a motion? So moved. Thank you. Do I have a second? I'll second. Thank you. Director Smith. Approved. Director Barrows. Approve. Director Savara. Approve. And Director Decker. Approved. And I also approved. Approved. So for our regular business portion of the agenda. It's me. We have a recommendation to purchase the second step social emotional learning curriculum package for all classrooms, grades K through 8 for the 2021-2022 school year. Dr. Snell.
Yeah, I will share the screen here with you and for the audience members. This is in response to the Washington State Social Emotional Learning Standards, and this is a slide that shows the 6 standards that they have: self-awareness, self-management, self-efficacy, social awareness, social management, and social engagement. Over the last, since February, the district has been involved in looking at different options for curriculum for social emotional learning. Again, you've done this in previous meetings, but for the benefit of this audience, wanted to make sure that people understood the process of that. Last in June, you had a workshop that looked at the recommendation from the board, and then this is the follow-up, the recommendation from the district, and then this is the follow-up with the curriculum purchase for that.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do you have a second? I second. Okay, thank you. Are there any additional questions on this?
Well, I think we've discussed this pretty thoroughly in
Yeah,
other
we did
meetings.
discuss it thoroughly in June. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as we had talked about in June, I really appreciate all of the background kind of collaboration and the process that the district went through to look at this curriculum. You know, I have the advantage of knowing a lot of school counselors and was able to kind of get my own input when I knew this was the recommended curriculum. And a lot of the school counselors that I know highly recommend this curriculum. It looks at a lot of different aspects of social emotional learning. You know, things like bicycle safety. I mentioned this during the workshop, things like wearing your helmet when you're riding your bike, and just different aspects that meet all of those standards. So I think it's a great curriculum that the district is recommending.
Thank you. Are there any more comments or questions? Okay, we will move to a vote. Director Decker. I approve. Director Savara. I approve. Director Barrows. Approve. And Director Smith. Approve. I also approve. Motion passes.
Director Sprouse, sorry. When we approved consent agenda, instructional administrative support services, do we skip over fiscal as well?
Oh, no, we do those all as one consent agenda.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
The second item of regular business, we do a recommendation to award bid number 2021-029 Kiggins Bowl site improvements for track and field.
Yeah, on June 22nd, 2021, 2 bids were received and opened for site improvements at Kiggins Bowl. Site improvements include civil work associated with a new track and field for Discovery Middle School. Additional scope includes spectator bleachers, pathways and fencing, ADA parking lot and retaining walls. Colf Construction LLC, Vancouver, Washington, submitted the lowest qualified bid. A copy of the bid tabulation is attached. This is the second part of 2 phases to renovate Kiggins Bowl in the modernization project. This was a part of the 2017 bond program. District staff and consultants have reviewed the bids, and it is recommended to accept the lowest qualified bid. This funding source will be from capital projects funds, and so the recommendation from staff is that the Board of Directors award bid number 2021-029 to Colf Construction LLC, Vancouver, Washington.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We will move to a vote unless there's any questions. Okay, Director Smith. Approve. Director Barrows. Approve. Director Savala. Approve. Director Decker. Approve. And I also approve. Next, we have the recommendation to award bid number 2021-027 800 building addition.
Similarly, June 3rd, 2021, we received 3 bids open for a 6 classroom addition at Columbia River High School. The addition will include a concession area and mechanical space on the lower level and 6 classrooms on the upper level. Robertson and Olson Construction Incorporated submitted the lowest qualified bid, and the bid tabulation is attached. The funding source for this, again, is Capital Projects Fund, and again, this is a part of the 2017 bond program. The district recommendation, the staff recommendation, excuse me, is that the Board of Directors would award this bid to Robertson, Olson and Construction Incorporated for the construction of the 800 wing concessions and classroom addition at Columbia River.
Thank you for that. Do I have a motion? I'll motion. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We'll move to a vote unless there's any questions. Okay, Director Decker. Approve. Director Zavala. Approve. Director Barrows. Approve. And Director Smith. Approve. Okay, and I also approve. Lastly, in our regular business, we have the recommendation to accept bid number 2018-027 for the Peter S. Ogden Elementary School replacement project.
So back on June 26th in 2018, we awarded a contract to Robinson Construction for the construction of a new replacement elementary school on the current Peter S. Ogden school site. The project was also a part of the 2017 bond program. The project also qualified for state match assistance, and eligible reimbursement funds are in process from OSPI. The work has now been completed. The building is occupied and has been inspected by district staff and consultants and recommended for final acceptance by the board. Again, Capital Projects Fund was the funding source, and the recommendation then would be that you accept the contract from Robinson Construction Company for the construction of the replacement school in the final amount of $32,342,859.68 plus Washington State sales tax, which is to be held for 45 days per RCW 60.28.011.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a comment that Ogden is a beautiful
It's a
school.
beautiful school. Director Smith. Approve. Director Barrows.
Approve.
Director Savala. Approve. Director Decker. Approve. And I also approve. Tonight, we also have 2 superintendent reports. The first is the fall 2021 update. So I will pass it over to Dr. Snell.
Thank you. Just a couple of items that I wanted to talk about in my superintendent's report. As you mentioned, this is my first board meeting, so I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and serve this great district and great community. I've spent a lot of time here, and I'm glad to come back. Regarding that leadership transition, this spring, I had the opportunity to meet at every school and talk with their principal, engage a lot of community groups, and just do some listening. And so that was a awesome opportunity. We also had at the end of the school year a staff connect. Zoom, although it's not our preferred choice, does allow us to engage a lot of people at the same time. And so we had an all staff meeting to talk about the year that had passed and our hopes for the year in the future. So that was a great opportunity. I want to speak a little about student equity. That was a popular comment tonight, and then a little about fall guidance, which is we received a lot of comments tonight as well. Student equity from the district standpoint, and what I've heard as I've done my tour, is really about these kinds of items that we want to make sure that each of our students have their unique needs met. We treat them fairly. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to succeed in our district. I think all of us want that, and we heard that tonight. We want to provide schools that are safe and accepting of each person and their culture. We want to make sure that we give students the tools that they need to thrive and work with people from all over the world. We definitely want to treat our students to treat each other with respect and know each other. We want to make sure that students are growing their own confidence and self-esteem in healthy ways. And we definitely want to make sure that our students leave us with good critical thinking skills. And so that's the focus that I've heard. I know that over the course of the last couple of years, this board has adopted a resolution that was referenced earlier tonight. And as we go through this year together, we're going to refine what this could look like. And we appreciate the feedback that we receive from patrons about this and the student experience in general. We also acknowledge that this last year, not just in Vancouver Public Schools, but has been extremely challenging for our students across the country and across the world as we try to meet their needs and try to understand how to navigate this pandemic. The other thing that was brought up tonight that I thought might come up a little bit is related to some of the new state requirements from the state. And there is a bill that was signed into law related to staff training. It is focused on student equity and the outcomes that we talked about previously in that previous slide. It does not include critical race theory, or another one that didn't come up tonight that I've heard is the 1619 project. And so a gentleman also commented this evening about having that training available, and we as a district will produce the agenda and outcomes of those trainings so that our public can see what we're working on to support our teachers with. Also, this district was the Attorney General weighed in on practices that were happening in our system and identified gaps in our system. And so we had an audit that was conducted. And so we have an obligation to respond to that audit. And so that is available on the website now, overview for patrons to look at and to comment on. And so that will be a part of our work moving forward this year as well, is to look at those gaps that we have. And do our best to ensure that each student can be successful when they leave Vancouver Public Schools. Related to fall guidance, the CDC did just release on July 9th updated guidance, and so we've all been kind of waiting for that. And the next question is, will our Department of Health respond to that guidance and change what they are mandating for us to do as a local school district? We also did conduct some surveys towards the end of the school year to try to gauge parents and families' preferences around what options they would like for their students in the fall. And we want to revisit that at the beginning of August. Our return rate, we'd like it to be a little higher if possible so that we can try to staff accordingly to align to families' desires and make sure we have adequate staff there. So more information to come about that. So the CDC guidance, I know this slide has a lot of detail, and I provide it more for follow-up reference rather than being able to read everything today. It's straight from their website. I did bold the third item because that is related to masks, and it is the one area that has some definite differences between what the state of Washington is currently mandating and what the CDC recommendations are. And so right now, if you go to the CDC site, you'll see that they are allowing masks out, not requiring masks outside, and then talking about masks indoors when people are not fully vaccinated. And so that's different than what our state is currently saying. And so we're wanting to pay attention to that and see what the new Department of Health guidance says. The other, I continued this more as a reference, and the CDC website is linked here so people can look at this, but these guidance are largely rather similar to what our current state of Washington Department of Health guidance is. So I don't anticipate a lot of changes on that front. So what did our Department of Health guidance say? The last time they updated us was back on May 13th was the original, and then they followed up on May 24th, and then they just recently on July 6th released something about not requiring face coverings in outdoor settings. And so they also referenced in that guidance that they do plan to update their guidance in consideration of whatever the CDC releases. And so the rumor is that we would receive that next week, but that is all rumor and speculation at this point. So I don't have anybody really with any authority telling me that, but they've had work groups in place and are trying to process what does this mean for Washington. Currently, if they don't make any changes, then we as a local school district are mandatory on these bold mitigation strategies. And one of those is masks. And obviously lots of energy and feeling around that. And so we'll want to pay attention to where do we have flexibility and what does that look like for this district and what does it look like for our state? I tried to just like overlay where some of these decisions are landing right now in our state. One of the areas is a remote learning option, and the state has told us that we are not mandated to provide a remote learning option, that's a local decision, and you as a board have endorsed moving forward with that and providing a full remote learning option. So that is something that will be in place for families if they want that in the fall. Face coverings right now in the state of Washington are a state mandate. And so if there's energy around that, I would encourage people, whatever way you feel, is to reach out to your state elected officials to challenge them around this.
So we're fucking here now.
Yeah.
We talked to them.
Thank you,
Sorry.
sir. Yeah.
You can set the rules here.
No, we
The
can't.
next
For our
topic
district. Yes, we
is
can.
COVID.
Absolutely can.
The next topic is COVID cases and close contacts. And the state currently are dictating those reporting requirements. The distancing requirements, which is the 3 to 6 feet distance that was put into place last year. There's flexibility around that at the local level that it should not prevent us from providing a full-time in-person experience for students. And so we're moving forward with that 5 days a week. And then finally, the other area that has energy is contact tracing. And right now, the state defines the rules around how we identify close contacts and then subsequent quarantines. And so that's just an overview of right now. If you look at the guidance and the recommendations and the requirements, where they land. And I understand some people feel that they shouldn't land in that way, but that's how it lands right now in Washington. Finally, and I'll just move to the next item if that's okay, President Sproul. Just an overview of the budget and the process that we have and that the district goes through. And obviously I'm joining now in July. But just a timeline back in December is when the governor releases his proposed budget and then the legislative session starts. And as districts, we pay attention to that legislative session, try to see if there's any impact to our state budget or our school district's budget from the state level. This year, the House and Senate proposed budgets were adopted in a timely manner, which is really helpful for us in school districts because our timeline for staffing the schools is in the end of May, beginning of June. And so to have that information before we have to do that process is really helpful. And then there's a series of board meetings and engagements that I want to draw to your attention. Recently, we posted on the website the draft budget. And that's up and available to people so they can review that. And then on August 10th, we'll have a public hearing about that draft budget and a potential adoption of the 21-22 final budget by you as a board. And so in between that time, we'll be preparing you with details about what that budget looks like and answering any questions that you might have. That's the report that I have tonight, and we'll look forward to updating you in August.
Thank you so much for that thorough report. Lastly, on the agenda, there are attached financial statements that you can review online. But just as a reminder for our public, our next meeting is on August 10th, where we will do the budget along with a regular business meeting. But with that, our meeting is adjourned.